Well, this dog right here ain't looking for no sticks or treats. He's looking to save the life of one of those cute little koalas that we just saw.
Yeah, this is an awesome story. The 6-year-old Australian Koolie found and helped save over 100 injured koalas caught in scorched areas left behind by Australia's wildfires back in 2019 and 2020. And for his work, Bear was recently honored by the International Fund for Animal Welfare.
Okay, joining us now, live from Queensland, Australia, is Bear and Director of Detection Dogs for Conservation, Dr. Romaine Christica. Doctor, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
How'd I do with that name, by the way?
Not too bad. It's a difficult one.
Okay, all right. Well, how about I'll just call you Doctor. Doctor, search and rescue dogs are not a new thing, but this dog specializes in finding koalas. How do you train a dog to find koalas is the question.
So you have to find a good dog first, and the reason we especially selected Bear was because he's got that obsession. We call it OCD, obsessive compulsive behavior. And yes, it's basically the dogs that want to play all day long, no matter what time of the day, no matter what's the weather, and we harness that energy and that happiness, for the job. To train them on a specific target order.
I love it. So you're playing up to his strengths and giving him a job, and he's saving so many koalas. So what is his signal? What does he do to tell you that he's found a koala?
He drops to the ground. So basically, we want the signal to be as non-invasive as possible for the koala, because that could be really stressful. So as soon as he's into what we call the cone of scent, he drops, as you just saw in those images.
That makes sense. I was going to say, well, no doubt, he barks when he sees the koala, but yeah, that would scare the koala away, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we train them to be really quiet and as non-invasive as possible to the animals, and not just the koala, any animal in the environment. They are called conservation dogs. We need them to be super safe.
Got it. So the environments that he's working in have to be tough, right? How does he manage to stay so cool throughout some of these searches?
So interestingly enough, for Bear, all that toughness about being deployed in devastated area, he didn't see that, because for him, we were just out there playing with the tennis ball. So for him, it's a deployment just like any other deployment. He's just happy to be out there having the best of time. And it was much harder for the human team because we were aware of why we were there and the devastation for the koala.
Yeah, and I mean, if you remember, before the pandemic, the big news were the fires out of Australia and the devastation and the big hit to the koala population. So it's just great to see the work you guys are doing. And then also to see Bear honored. He received the award from the International Fund for Animal Welfare. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so look, it was really unexpected, and we were all so happy for him to be recognized. But it's really an award that goes to all the team behind the Bear. So obviously we go out to find koala, but we work really closely with Wildlife Rescue Group and the International Fund for Animal Welfare, and made it possible for us to be helping out those people on the ground that have the very tough job, of being on the front line for animals that are suffering. And that's their volunteer for those organizations. And they do that throughout the year. So they were obviously very overworked during that intense period post-fire, but that's their normal life, and they're just so dedicated and so awesome, and we were just only too happy to give a hand and a pull.
Gotcha. What's next for Bear the dog then?
So in his normal duty, Bear does normal wildlife rescue, so more sick and injured animal, not related to the fire, but he also helps us in our research. So we are at the University of Sunshine Coast, and we study koala in a bid to protect them. So we have different research projects, and we are studying things like the impact of the fire and climate change on koala, the impact of urbanization on koala. And for all those things, we need to find koala. And so that's their normal day job, is to help us find koala for research.
And speaking of the koalas, after you guys get out there, you rescue them, you bring them back. How are they all managing in that recovery process?
So that's a very good question, and no one really knew when those koala would be ready for release, and that was very scary because you can imagine that when you put back, you can see in the image how burnt it was, and there was barely any food left, and also koala need those leaves to protect themselves from the sun. So that they can not overheat. That's also a big issue for koala. So it was very, very scary to release those animals. And we were lucky enough that we were able to release some of them wearing a collar and monitor their movements so that we make sure that we did the right thing and released them after the habitat had recovered well enough to sustain those koala. So that's what we've done, and they've been coping really well. And the good news is that we've seen them breeding this year.
Good.
So obviously they're not over the hump, and as you said at the very start, those fires were so intense and so extensive that we lost a lot of our animals. So we still need to support them moving forward, but at least they are back there and breeding.
Got it. All righty. Well, doctor, keep saving those koalas, and while you're at it, keep coming back to Fox Weather Wild to share your stories. That was a fascinating interview. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We appreciate it. Bye, Bear. Good boy.
Oh, what a bye,
You're a
Bear.
good boy.